That's why we set the back.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. Really appreciate it. My name is Eric. I live up there. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to come out, and we hope that you guys can meet with some good information. I'm the director of Build Wyoming, which is an initiative that Prometheus has to really try to be more community-focused, community engagement, and make sure that they're providing that dialogue. So that's a lot of the discussion here today. You're going to hear from quite a few of the Prometheus people here. And a lot of you have signed up for questions. We're going to try and get to all of those questions. So as opposed to just shouting it out like some of the kids that hang out at my house, we ask that you guys go kind of in an orderly fashion. I'll call off everyone's name. And we'll be here as long as you want to make sure that any and all of those questions are answered. We still do have, are they those seats taken? We got 2 seats up here, we've got 2 seats up there. Those are taken. You can't sit next to that guy. They're taken. So you can sit over here. We got one over there if you want to come sit in. So come on, filter in. And don't feel like you have to stay for the entire time. If you want to go eat more snacks, do whatever. We're just here to answer those questions. So with that, I'm going to let James and Ahmed kind of go through a discussion of what a data center is and how that is how that plays into what we have.
All right, sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. Really appreciate everybody coming out. Sorry, I got a lot of light shining in my eyes. Really appreciate everybody coming out. We look forward to providing you with as much information as we can. We applaud you to bring your questions, hard or easy. And Ahmed and I will both do our best. Before we jump into the slides, I'll just talk a little bit about my data center history. So I've been in data centers for 30 plus years. Yeah, I got a lot of gray hairs. Still have some hair left, but it's been quite the interesting journey. I actually started out of the Merchant Marine, where I sailed the ocean blue, and a lot of folks ask, well, why would you leave a beautiful career like that and get into data centers? Well, data centers are a lot of fun. They're very interesting. They're quite challenging. My background has always been in managing risk, and there's a lot of risk to manage in data centers. So again, before we jump into the slides, I'll let Ahmed do his intro, and then we'll do a little talk about the.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ahmed Anwar. I'm the head of construction for Prometheus. It's quite the turnout over here. Love seeing all the faces here. Just like what James mentioned, we're both here to answer, along with the rest of the Prometheus team, to answer any of the questions that you may have around data center or the project that we're building. A little bit about me. James could school me on data center construction all day long, but I did dabble in data center construction for the last 6 years. I've built numerous data centers across Americas. Something a little bit beyond data centers, just like what James was mentioning. I started my career in power generation. Evanston, Wyoming is very near to oil and gas power plants. That's kind of how I got my start. So I'm bringing some of that from my past experience along with the data center construction experience to help this community build the next phase of data centers here. Thanks.
We're going to keep these the slides very high level. The purpose of that was because we want to leave as much time as possible for everybody to ask us questions. However, we do want to set the level in the room a little bit and talk about data centers. I'll start the introduction. A lot of folks, from my experience over the years, well, like, I don't believe in data centers, or they're just this, big noisy thing that sits on a hill somewhere. But data centers are actually very much part of our life. We give a couple of examples here. If you're using social media, you're interacting with data centers. If you're streaming videos, and that includes Netflix or HBO or any of the streaming services, and there's a lot of them out there, all that stuff's coming out of a data center somewhere. Our healthcare, our all the healthcare rules are been focused around the fact that the records are in data centers. And then there's the banking. If you swipe a credit card, you're interacting with a data center somewhere. If you go to the gas station and you use your preferred shopper's card, you're interacting with a data center somewhere. So as much as we think we might be trying to avoid data centers, they are here to stay. They are very much part of our life, and they bring us a lot of value, and they also give us an opportunity to learn so much more about the things that our neighbors, the tax records, if you think about those things. I mean, all that stuff's online in the data center.
I could probably take the next 2 hours and cover each one of those blocks, but I won't do that. Just in general, the takeaway from this, a data center is just not electricity, it's not cooling, it's not sound. There's more that goes inside those 4 walls. We're all used to computers, but just imagine hundreds of those computers in server racks. So there's a lot of technological investment that goes inside the data center. What does that mean for the community? That brings in a lot of the advancement in the learning and the workforce that the data center will bring to the community. You know, you talked about during construction, we'll need electricians, we'll need pipe fitters, we'll need iron workers, pretty much any trade that supports an oil and gas field, any type of power plant projects. It's the same types of trades that we're looking for as we build data centers. Once the data centers are built, they'll still need support to maintain that infrastructure, right? There needs to be a maintenance team made up of electricians, mechanics, they're all needed. There's also the IT part of the data center. There's a networking, there's 24/7 monitoring, just like any other critical infrastructure, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a power plant. You're going to need someone to look at power, cooling, all of that. So there's a good, healthy amount of workforce that comes with an infrastructure like a data center.
What's interesting about this slide is we show it in blocks, but actually it should be like puzzle pieces, right? Because all these pieces need to fit together to make a data center complete and operational. They're complex environments, and as I started out saying, there are also a lot of risk in running a data center. So we mentioned a little bit about security, but there's a lot of security efforts put in place. There's cameras, there's a team of security folks to protect the site, and then there's also monitoring that's done to support the site so that a lot of the functions that go on in the data center can be done remotely and not done with folks.
Yeah, the one thing to add to that, you know, these blocks that we're looking at is not data center specific. If you just take a 30,000 feet elevation view of this, any large critical infrastructure, whether it's a power plant, whether it's a military installation, or even a hospital, you're going to need an operations team. You're going to need maintenance personnel. You're going to need a security team. So these are the necessities to stand up any project, any large project of this magnitude.
Great. So Trenton's going to talk a little bit about our project in more detail.
Yes. Mike, so it will work. All right. So this is where we're going to be building. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Silver Eagle Refinery, but the fence line for the ranch is kind of like right here. We're going to be putting the data center right here. Our closest neighbor is somewhere over here. It's Bush and Melissa Foster. And my brother's done a good job of making sure that they understand what's coming and how that's going to work. So this is land that my family owns. And the area is already either vacant, where my brother is running cattle right now, or it's industrial. And there's really nothing until you get several miles west to the city of Evanston, nor is there anything going the other way. You'll hit the Guild Ranch, and then a little bit further on you'll get to the valley. So that's a little bit about the location. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. This is a rendering of what the Data Hall building looks like. This is a rendering of Hall 3. There are going to be 5 of these buildings out there. And off to the left, you can kind of see the top of one of the other Data Hall buildings. And then the shorter building is one of the, is an administrative support building. So the initial campus capacity is 1.25 gigawatts. We're not building that all at once. It will be a staged build out over the next several years, really starting hopefully 6 months from now and continuing on at a pace. And you'll see the construction crew kind of fluctuate until we get out to about 2032. So it's not all coming at once. You can see 48 to 60 months there for the full campus build out. And the footprint of these buildings is 8 to 9 football fields. I took the mayor of Evanston, Kent Williams, who's also in county planning, and Garrett Welling, who's also in county planning, down to see one of these buildings that's operational in West Jordan, Utah. Nobody knows it's there. In fact, there's a neighborhood that's across the street. But they're in the process of finishing out their 3rd building, about to start construction on their 4th building. And they actually have the power generation on site. We're going to put ours a little bit further away from the data halls, so there's going to be some separation in there. But standing in the alleyway with the N-Bockers running and the closed-loop cooling system running, the AC units that were in the construction trailers were noisier than the data center. And if you don't believe me, ask the mayor. Water use. Everyone's concerned about water use. Our family ranches here, and my great-great-grandmother homesteaded here down on Bear River back in 1869. Water is extremely important to us, and it's part of the reason why I started this company. I started the company because I saw 2 things that were wrong with the data center industry. They were using way too much power for the amount of compute that they were getting out, and they were using way too much water for cooling. And so I set about researching waterless cooling methods. And we developed our own technology, and the technology that our prospective tenant wants us to build is also a closed loop system. So those of you who are from the oil field like I am have probably heard of PG25. It's propylene glycol and water. That will probably get mixed at some place like Coastal Chemical out on the edge of town here. They will tank it out to the site. We'll do an initial fill. That fill will last for about 6 years before we have to change it out and polish it. So there's no discharge. The wells are for domestic culinary use only. So that means kitchen, bathrooms, some humidification, and landscaping to the extent that we have landscaping out there that's not natural. Here's a little bit more on what a closed loop liquid cooled system looks like. And this is exactly what I showed the mayor, only it was operational down in West Jordan. The 2 things that you see here on the left on the outside are dry coolers. So those are basically like the radiators in your car. This thing down here is a screw compressor chiller. So you can kind of think about that as like the AC compressor in your car. So most of the year we're going to get free cooling because it's cold in Wyoming from the dry coolers. And then on the 2 or 3 days a year where it gets above 80 degrees, we'll have to flip on this chiller. So basically you have a supply line, which is the first line that goes into a header. These boxes at the end of the rows that say CDU, that stands for Coolant Distribution Unit. It's not that complicated. It's heat exchangers, pumps. It's basically there to modulate the temperature of the compute that is in the racks behind it. And we also have a proprietary design for that, but I don't think our tenant's going to want our design, they want their own. Power strategy. We are going off the grid. So when I started the company back in 2020, it was a 10 megawatt data center. But nobody wanted liquid cooling because it wasn't required. We moved the conditional use permit to section 31, which is another area out in the ranch, and we moved it up to 120 megawatts. The tenant that wants the site now wants 5 buildings, not 1, and that's why we're asking for a conditional use permit on this other section, is because the project has gotten larger in size. The important thing to note here is that because we're not connecting to the grid, there's zero impact on your rates because we're not connected to Rocky Mountain Power. The rules in Wyoming are such that we can generate and consume our own electricity on site, and we will have to abide by all the regulations. Mary Throne, who is the former commissioner of the Public Service Commission of Wyoming, works for Prometheus, and she's here. If you want to ask her a power question, she's the person who has all the answers. The most important thing here is that instead of exporting all of this economic value from the gas that's produced here in Wyoming like we've always done, the point is to consume that here, do the compute here, have the property taxes from these facilities here to support our tax base, to support schools, and all the other county services. And that's my reason for doing this project. So again, I've been doing this for 6 years. For the first 3.5 years, we didn't have anybody who wanted to buy it. And finally now we've got someone who wants to lease from us. Here are some other things that we're doing. Noise mitigation, light mitigation, and traffic. Everybody's concerned about this stuff. Hopefully those of you who know where Silver Eagle refining is now can kind of have a concept of where this is located. We're going to have dark sky lighting out there, which means we don't want to mess with the dark sky where you can see the stars. We are working with one of the world's best sound mitigation firms. So we're going to measure the background decibels before we start. We're going to measure them after we commission, and we're going to post all of that stuff to a public portal. We're also going to tell you exactly how many gallons we're pulling out of our well, so that everybody can see that. I've said too much, so I think I want to turn it back over to our construction guys.
All right, so. I don't know if it's working. There you go, now it's working. So before we become operational, there's going to be a major construction phase that we go through. Trenton mentioned that this is not going to happen in a 1-year period. It's going to be a phased approach. But in peak, we are looking at close to 3,800 construction workforce, both to support the data center construction and the power generation side of the project as well. Once the building starts operational, I kind of mentioned how this is a critical infrastructure. We're going to need permanent workforce, whether it's maintenance, whether it's operations, whether it's the networking side, the IT side. We're estimating, once the project is fully completed, we're estimating 200 long-term operational jobs for this project. But beyond the direct effect of temporary construction roles, permanent direct hire roles for operations, there's going to be a multiplier during construction. Each one of us will see the impact, whether it's restaurants and retail services over the next 5 years, getting that revenue boom for having this project come to town. So we are estimating that impact to be 6 times what the current that the town is foreseeing right now. Again, we're anticipating starting anywhere between a Q3, Q4 of 2026 timeline. But as with any construction project, this will be a long construction timeline, anywhere between 4 to 5 years. And that's to support all 5 buildings and the power island. On the tax economic, Trenton, would you like to take this?
Sure, I'm back on. I'm a recovering CFO, so I'll try to get this right. As you can see, during the construction phase, the total impact to the state will be about $184 million. The impact to UNIT County is going to be about $40 million. And then once it's operational, because of the severance tax on the natural gas that's going to be consumed out there and other state taxes, the state of Wyoming will benefit to the tune of about $53 million a year. And then the data center itself is going to create a $13 million impact to county and sub-county. So this is what's important to me. I used to use the rec center up here, and I haven't been, but I hear it's not in good shape. Things like that are going to be able to be either remodeled or rebuilt using this kind of money, because it's a significant percentage of the amount of money that UNIT County collects from property taxes right now. The biggest beneficiary are the schools. Of course, in Wyoming, part of the mill rate goes to the local school district, and the other part goes to the state where they get to finagle it over in Cheyenne. The fire district is going to be well funded. Roads and infrastructure, public safety, so sheriff's office, county government. These are the main beneficiaries of the property tax part of this that can't be overemphasized. So while the ongoing employment is only about 200 people, because of the amount of investment that goes into these facilities, the property tax impact is massive. And now we're at Build Wyoming. So Eric, would you like to take this one?
You think I know how to turn that on?
It's broken.
Maybe. Oh, there we go. All right, so Build Wyoming is really trying to make sure that the communities are involved, that people are actually, that the local community is involved. So we're going to have those local hiring preferences. A lot of people have already signed up in the online portal. We're working on partnerships with Western Wyoming Community College. A lot of you have asked, why did we start a little bit earlier? So we moved to 3:30 because Western Wyoming Community College was supposed to present at the beginning, and then we ended up having even more scheduling conflicts because they had to be back in Rock Springs at 6 o'clock, and so they're not here at all, but we'll have them next time. So really trying to make sure that we have those investments in the Wyoming STEM education and the career pathways, and trying to provide those regular updates. We don't have enough of the handouts for everyone, but all of those handouts will be posted on our website, so you guys will be able to take a look at those and have those. And then also those long-term tax contributions to schools, roads, and all those public services. So now we can get into some questions. I'm just going to start at the beginning, and if your question already gets kind of answered, if you want to say skip, want to have something else answered, or if you have maybe a different kind of nuance on that question, then we can go from there. So we're going to run through, try and keep it kind of orderly, so that way everyone can to get their questions answered. So we're just going to start right at the top. Greg, you are up.
I'll bring the microphone to you so you can just stay in your chairs, that we don't have to keep traipsing around.
Hi, I'm Greg Dalton. I'm fourth generation Evanston resident here. I moved away in '92 and spent 25 years in the industry building data centers, and moved back, to be near family here just a few years back. I know that this is going to be a complicated decision for the residents, and I just want to get a little feedback. I have no connection to anybody here, but the ideas that they're talking about implementing are things that we were interested in implementing in other parts of the industry for years, but like the liquid cooling problem, a lot of server manufacturers just don't want water near their servers. The AI movement has changed that now that they allow for that. I think that, where they're talking about where it's not connected to the grid, where we have a bunch of cap wells that aren't, financially viable for export, and the fact that we're not planting these data centers right down next to somebody's house. This is kind of an opportunity that we may want to consider. I just want to, be careful and say that a lot of the terminology around AI, it's been a problem for some years. They call it aspirational mnemonics, where they call terms things that sound very, very human. They have utility and use, but I want to make it clear that we are nowhere close to Skynet at this point in time. This is going to be more useful. Fortunately, we're in an era where some of the companies you interact with have been pretty aggressive about pushing it upon people in ways that they don't like. But I think that this long term will be a potential offer, and I just say consider it. I'm not convinced one way or the other right now, but I think we should think about it.
Eric, next.
We've got Melissa Atkinson.
I'll come to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you being here today to talk to all of us and inform us about data centers. I too am excited about the evolution of data centers and how much progress has been made with them. I don't think any of us want anything coming into the community or the state that can be detrimental to us. So it's nice to see efficiency, sustainability, the wise use of natural resources, and just the lack thereof of the use of natural resources with new technologies. I'm on the Wyoming Business Council board, and I also sit on as the director of the Southwest Wyoming Manufacturing Partnership, which represents business and industry in the area. Really excited to see that you're wanting to partner with Western Wyoming Community College, as we're trying to keep more of our graduates within the state and find good jobs for them to benefit from. While this doesn't produce maybe as many jobs as some other business and industries do, my main question was going to be about the tax base that this generates. That's really important. We need a large tax base to infuse money into the economy so that we can grow in wide areas for other business and industry. So thanks for coming today.
Do you live here?
I live in Green River.
Green River? Do you live here?
I live in Evanston, yes.
You're not even part of Evanston?
Not even part of Uinta County. He lives
Eric, next.
She lives in
Hold on, guys, let's keep it so that everyone gets a chance to ask a question.
I'd like to have everyone have a chance to their
It was a
question.
statement.
Her
Okay, more
question.
statements. More statements.
All right, Katie Mullen.
Hi guys, I also am from Sweetwater County. I'm here because this was interesting. I'm wondering if you guys can describe the regulatory landscape and where you guys are at in this process.
Yes, so we already have a permitted site, as I said during my little intro. We have a conditional use permit to build and operate a data center on section 31. Most people won't know where that is. Maybe my mom and my brother do. But it's, if you go south off of the interchange that goes up to Kenner, and you follow the ridge line about halfway to the Aspen tunnels, it sits up on top of a ridge line there. So that's the currently permitted site. Because our tenant wants 5 buildings, not one, now we're moving basically down the ridge line We're still on the Bear River Divide, but we're going to be off section exit 13 on section 13 next to the Silver Eagle refinery. And where we are in the permitting process is that we have submitted a subdivision application to the County Planning and Zoning Department, and we have a hearing tomorrow evening where they will review that submission for completeness and score it, and then they will take a vote. After they vote, it will go to the county commissioners along with all the information and the recommendations from the Planning and Zoning Department and from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then the commissioners will take a vote. I appreciate that there are a lot of people here because when I went through this process back in 2021, nobody showed up.
We're all hiding for our lives, man. That's what they told us to do.
21.
2022, 2020, we all hid like dogs for 2 years. Yes, we did, sir. Yes, we did.
All right, we're on. All right, we're on to the next question, because I can't work this mic. We've got Mark Anderson.
I've got a few questions. Mark Anderson. I live here in Evanston. I was born and raised here. Some of these, most people know I'm one of the county commissioners here in Union County, and I've engaged heavily the last week or two with constituents, some for, some against. So some of these questions maybe aren't necessarily mine, but they're some of my constituents. As for the jobs, you mentioned 200 long-term jobs. Union County, are these jobs that we can expect the residents to reside in Union County, or will these be 200 jobs that are created for somebody to sit and operate it remotely?
So these are 200 jobs at the data center site. Doesn't include any remote jobs. So if you talk to folks who are in areas where these have been developed before, there's usually a facilities maintenance and operations company involved. For us, we selected a company called Salute. It used to be called Salute Mission Critical. It was founded by a friend of mine, former Army Colonel named Lee Kirby. And they hire mainly military veterans. So U.S. Navy nuclear subprogram, all branches of the military, hence the name Salute. But the way we're going to do it here is that we're first going to post all these jobs locally so that we can pull all of the talent that's here or people who are interested in getting a job there, participating. I can tell you what the wages are because they're kind of the same across the industry. These 200 jobs range from $75,000 a year on the low end to about 150 on the high end, and they're good jobs. So it's like if you work for a large company. My wife works for a large infrastructure company, so these jobs will come with all the benefits. You'll have bonus, you'll have overtime, vacation, full health care, 401k, all the things that you want that I don't have working for a startup.
Follow up to that, Trenton.
One of the things that Salute's going to also do is they also have a training program.
We can't hear you.
Salute also has a training program and an education program, so you don't have to be born into data center operations to get a job there. They're also going to train folks, so you can start out as a sort of an intern and work your way through their organization and be a local resident and learn about operating a data center.
Follow up on that, I know that some of my constituents are concerned in this AI realm of foreign influence and things, and the employees, would they be employees of Prometheus, or would they be employees of the tenant or a future tenant?
They would be employees of Salute.
Okay.
And I will, just to put everybody's fears to rest here, although we're not fully contracted, we have had to sign a paper from our tenant that basically, and we would never do this.
Jesus. Need a tax base.
So we're prohibited from transferring properties ever.
Yeah, you gotta move around.
We're prohibited from transferring this property ever to a list of 15 entities, including all the Chinese tech companies.
So who is our tenant?
We're not at a point where we can disclose that yet.
That's pretty important.
All I will say is my family knows who it is. Obviously, I know. Part of the reason why we have to stay confidential is we're not ready to talk about them. They've asked us not to, and so at some point, I will want them to come here with me so we can have the same conversation with them. But I think you'll be very pleased with them. As I look at the entire field of possibilities for companies that I would want to work with, they're number one in terms of ethics and the rest.
Next question, we have Jeremy Slater.
Skip.
Skip, all right. Carl. And if I butcher your last name, my last name is Schlint, so I've been hearing my last name butchered for years, so I apologize.
So just a couple of questions, and I know it doesn't cover everything, but you say that right now you're going to power this with your own natural gas generators. Which pipeline do you get the natural gas from, and do you have the right-of-way secured right now to run the pipe for the natural gas?
So that is the Kern River pipeline, which runs in a loop in that area. And the answer is yes.
Right along the same deal, the transmission lines for the fiber optics and stuff, have you secured the connections and right-of-ways for that?
Yes, I signed contracts with Lumen, who owns the level 3 network that's down in the Union Pacific right-of-way. We've been paying for that for years, even though we're not using it. We're also contracted with Cogent, who own the Sprint network in that same right-of-way easement. We're contracted on the Quest network, which is also owned by Lumen. That's the old Anschutz Quest. And there's also new fiber from Union that's been plowed along Interstate 80, and we'll probably end up using some of that as well. That's one of the reasons why I started the company, is all the main ingredients to make a data center, to make a sustainable data center, were already here in the ground.
All right, Brenda.
Why us? I get you, it's your land, I get it, that's great. But how many are in America already, data centers?
It depends on how you count them, but there are thousands. They are everywhere.
3,000. Why? How many more do you gonna need? And only 200 people from our town will be lucky enough to get a job there. It's not enough. It's not enough. What do we do for that? And bring them in here. Bring those people in here. Let's do something about it. What do you call those places where they're going to live? The housing?
Workforce housing?
Yeah. And then they have to go, and all those people want to say, they like us, they will like us. We don't want them.
Well, the workforce housing is temporary. When it's finished, The county gets to decide how much of it they want to keep, because there are recreational facilities that are part of this.
And
This isn't like,
where will they be planted?
so the county has offered to lease our partners at Target Hospitality, which is a publicly traded company, well governed. It's basically 1,000 acres that's
On the other side of our Buckboard.
east of the Bear River State Park, where they have the RV turnaround.
I don't think I like that either. I don't like that.
I'm gonna keep us going just because we have so many questions, so we're gonna,
Okay, so let's make the point.
okay.
All right,
Next,
Mason.
Mason.
Mason's over here.
My name is Mason Hupker, and I am a resident of here in Evanston in Uena County. What I do for a living is I take all of your guys' trash and I work at the landfill. So my question is, what does a data center do to generate waste? And what are we going to do to keep, because I read in here that we have 36 to 60 months of just construction for 5 buildings, correct?
Right.
After those 5 buildings, it says that you guys are going to comply with state water, noise, all that stuff. Is there anything that you can tell us about the waste generated coming from your 5 buildings?
Yes, so the main waste that's generated is when they do what's called a tech refresh, which is a fancy way of saying they pull out the old servers that are obsolete and they put in new ones. Those will all go to an off-site facility. A lot of them go to Iron Mountain, which is a company that comes and collects these things. The reason why they go to a specific set of recyclers is there's a lot of valuable components that are inside of those servers that can be recycled.
One other question, Matt. When you say the propylene
glycol?
With that, what happens, say that stuff falls on the ground or spills, or what? Just some history. What is that stuff?
So propylene glycol is in some of your food. It's in cosmetics. It's in some of your medication. It's all over the place. It's non-toxic. And if it's spilled somewhere, we can clean it up.
Just out of curiosity, if something happened, say
Yep.
ice froze, we live in an ice box,
Yep.
put it on the ground, that's just a concern.
Yes, it is a concern. Similarly, the refinery is a concern. I can speak to this directly because I used to be the CFO of an environmental, 2 different environmental services companies. One of which was called all the way up here from Texas when the Silver Eagle refinery had a spill. So we sent guys up here with back trucks and roll-off boxes. They cleaned up the spill. They sent us the waste. We processed it. And life went on. We got there before the cows did.
So where is Iron Mountain located?
If I can, let's just stick to the list, otherwise it'll just, everyone will start asking questions and no one will get to go, so here.
Bill Kelly.
Say again.
Yeah, Bill Kelly.
Bill Kelly. No.
All right, most of my questions have been answered, but I do have one. You said you worked in the oil field.
Yes.
So did I, and I know the crime that follows Mankins. Are you guys going to supply some sort of private security for the camps? Or are we going to have to pay taxes for more costs?
No, we're going to cover that. In fact, if there are local law enforcement, say the nuclear cops who are over in Cameron, who don't have a place to live, and they need a place, we will put them up for free in the workforce hub. We want as much law enforcement in there as possible. It's a dry camp. And if you have more questions about the workforce hub, I would refer you to my friend Troy. He's from Target Hospitality, and they operate the workforce hub.
All right, next question, we've got Wendy Schuler. Okay.
Before we go to Wendy's question, can I just add just a bit more to what Mason's questions were? So the comment about recycling, or what do you do with waste? Most of the waste that gets generated is metal scrap. So everyone has a computer at home and a hard drive. So these are a hard drive that has confidential information from a lot of customers that we use. So they actually go through a shredder. So it gets shredded on site, and then it gets bin and put off site for proper recycling. The comment about propylene glycol, PG25, I think a lot of folks have used that abbreviation. That's just a simple way of saying it's 25% propylene glycol and 75% water. As far as oil spill prevention, not oil, PG25 spill prevention, most of these, I built liquid cooling data centers in my past life. They all have catch containers around where these pipes are going around the data centers. So if there is an inadvertent spill, the catch containers is your defense in depth before it gets carted off into a sealed container. Hopefully that adds more to it.
Where are you going to get the 75% water?
So this doesn't come, this already comes pre-mixed from off-site. This isn't something that we're mixing on-site using well water.
So where?
All right, Wendy, you're up.
Okay.
Hold on, guys. Let's go in order.
Hi, Wendy Schuler, born and raised here in Uena County, and I've had quite a few constituents like Commissioner Anderson reach out and ask me questions. I've done quite a bit of research. I visited with some of the folks over in Cheyenne about their data centers. I think what you've said today and what I've seen today has pretty much answered all the questions I had, with the exception of maybe one. I had one constituent ask me about after 6 years, after you go ahead and recycle that, whatever that's called. Thank you very much. Does it go down under the water aquifer? Where does it go? That's the only question. I think you have an answer.
It's a similar process, Wendy. Whenever it's time for us to replenish, and the reason for 6 years, just think about your car radiator. Your car radiator is going to lose that coolant, right? And so you have to replenish that. So whenever it's time for us to replenish that, we actually cart it off-site using a sealed container. 55-gallon drums or 1,000-gallon sealed containers that it comes in. We will empty it and ship it off-site for proper processing. Not down the drain.
Where is it going?
So I can answer that. I used to be the Senior Vice President, CFO of a company called Miller Environmental Services. We handle frac flowback. We handle PG25. There are different places it can go depending on what's in it. If it's not hazardous, it can go down a disposal well. Oil field.
Into our water,
No.
our rivers, our...
No. These are Class 6 disposal wells. They are extremely hard to permit with EPA.
Do we have any currently in Wyoming?
I haven't looked for one, but we don't need to dispose it here. It can go wherever there's a Class 6 well. There are Class 6 wells we know of in Cheyenne because they're on the ranch where we intend to build out there. If it's hazardous, if it tests, because this waste gets tested. One of the companies that was part of the company that I used to work for, Clean Harbors, is called Safety Clean. You've probably seen their trucks driving around picking up used oil. They will test it, and if there's something hazardous in there, it goes to an incinerator.
Okay, I'm going to keep us going, Eric.
Shane Britt.
Shane Britt.
Over here.
Oh, thank you. I'm coming around.
Hi, thank you. Assuming this does take place, could you give us some ideas of maybe some auxiliary companies that this thing would need that maybe the locals should start building now instead of having it included?
Yeah, so there's a lot of industries, auxiliary industries, things that kind of occur as a part of this. You know, it's landscaping, it's cleaning. Something that happened, I was in Cheyenne, at Cheyenne Leafs dinner probably about a year ago. And there was a new member there, and I asked him, I said, why are you joining Cheyenne Leafs? He said, well, because I clean data centers. I said, what did you before this? He said, I worked at the refinery, and I was able to quit that job at the refinery and start this cleaning company for my wife and I to then clean data centers here. And I said, in my mind, I was like, well, why? What was kind of what was the idea of that? He said, well, you think about a computer room. I mean, when any of us are the size of our garage, there's usually that 1/4 inch of dust on the side because you can't get that darn close to it. So there's even specialized cleaning companies that need to kind of occur as a part of this. So it's anything and everything that can kind of be as a part of this.
Yeah, to follow on that, most of the maintenance is going to be around mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So also during construction, most of the skilled trades that you're going to see out there are either going to be electricians or pipe fitters, because the system is all liquid. You saw in the diagram that I put up on the screen, there are pipes everywhere. It's a lot of pipes and it's a lot of wires. And so you're going to have a lot of electricians. You're probably going to have electrical contractors from CBE or some local electrical contractor out there pretty much every day.
All right, John DuBois. Wow,
I'll pass all my questions.
Okay. Jen Hageman.
Hi, my name is Jen Hageman, and I'm a councilwoman for District 1 of Evanston, Wyoming. My questions are going to be long, and I will ask them all for my constituents who cannot be here at 3:30 in the afternoon on a work day. Direct tax abatement and subsidies for this. What are our federal layer, our state layer, and our local layer? How long have we been paying? What is the total? You might want to take notes and just answer these questions, or you can stop me.
No, I'm the CFO. I can answer the financial questions.
All right, because I couldn't find them anywhere online, and we all need to know this. How long have we been paying for this?
So the project that's been going on Section 31 has cost this county almost nothing.
Almost?
Almost nothing.
What is that?
The weed control district controlled it to make sure that after we did some of the prep work out there that we didn't have any noxious weeds pop up. But we have paid our vendors, specifically Lumen, who have assets in Uinta County already. They're already paying property taxes. We, of course, as landowners, also pay property taxes. So this has not been a burden on the county. I would not have started the company to make it a burden. Most of the industry is currently figuring out that what they've been doing in the past doesn't work. So when I came here, I didn't ask for any handouts. I didn't ask for any tax breaks. I didn't ask for any property tax abatement. The point here is not to extract from the community, it's to inject economic activity into the community for the community's benefit, because this is where I grew up.
Fair, but the technology itself has been funded by taxpayers on a federal, state, and community level for a long time. And so a $10 billion project, which will probably be more when it's completed, or if it's completed, that money comes from somewhere, and whether it's subsidies given to a different type of corporation, where are the taxpayers' money in this at any stage, pre, during, or post? What is the total abatement value in dollars across federal, state, and local jurisdictions over the full abatement period? What is the abated tax value as a percentage of the project's projected taxable value at full build-out? What is the projected net tax revenue in the local jurisdictions after abatement? How does that compare to the projected costs of public service the project will require?
So, again, I'm going to state this again. I have not requested any abatement. There are no abatements. Our funding is not government is completely private, and it's part of the reason that I stepped back as CEO. I'm still the founder and senior advisor to the CEO, is that we have to go raise this money on Wall Street. Nobody knows who Trenton Thronock is on Wall Street. They don't care who I am. The CEO of the company, Bernard Clooney, everyone knows. Jamie Dimon knows him. The head of BlackRock knows him. He's the reason that we had a CEO change to go raise the money from private markets. All of the equity, 100% of the equity, and 100% of the debt, which we are going to raise by a bond offering that's going to be managed by Morgan Stanley, comes from private investors.
So what you just said, and I'll move on to my next question after this, but you mentioned BlackRock, you mentioned Morgan Stanley, you mentioned Diamond. All of those entities make money by taxpayer subsidies.
That's not my business.
It is now. Utility cost shifting to ratepayers. Utility cost shifting is the most financially significant hidden cost in most data center projects and the most invisible to ordinary taxpayers. Now, you cleared up some of that with your presentation. What rate class will the project be built under? And what is the marginal cost of the capacity being built to serve it? What is the projected rate impact on residential consumers in the utility service territory over the life of the project? If on-site generation is proposed, what is the air quality impact assessment that the water consumption of generation of cooling and the methane leaching projections across the fuel supply? Now, you answered some of those questions with the water, but what water rights are being committed? And when you said that, from what source, what the priority date, and for what duration, I thought immediately we are trying to figure out how to get water to our ranchers, and whether it's circulating or not, it's still going to take water out of the community. And so where is it coming from, and what happens if it's going to be wrong? I'm not finished. When I finish, there's a pause, and you can answer.
There's a lot in there, so I just want to make sure that I get all of those questions answered because they're compound.
Yeah, so what happens? Because
let's start with power generation.
Okay.
So everybody says, okay, well, you're not going to consume a bunch of water for the data hall. So when these systems get built, they'll take about 3 Olympic swimming pools worth of water for the initial fill, and that will stay there for 6 years. Then they say, okay, well, you're gonna use a bunch of water for power production. Not necessarily. The technology that we've selected for the first phase, for the first couple of buildings, is natural gas reciprocating engine. It's very similar to the Dodge trucks that some folks in this room probably have. It uses DEF, the diesel emissions fluid. So we're talking about, on a per engine basis, a couple of Yeti cups per day. It's not significant. And when we get to the larger turbine generation, those will be cooled with dry coolers, similar to the data center. So there's no water consumption. So the ratepayers will not be impacted at all.
And can that be in a contract?
The tenant, sorry?
Can that be in a contract for the taxpayers with the city of Evanston?
No, it's already in a contract because the power generation gets built for the tenant. The tenant pays for all of the capital expense for everything that goes into the generation. They pay out of pocket.
I'm on the city council and I haven't seen any paperwork that protects the taxpayers.
We're not connected to the grid.
It's still
It's not connected to the grid and it's out in the county. It's county land. It's not
County.
Evanston.
Agricultural.
Not city
All right,
limits.
everyone.
Water, so municipal service costs, what incremental costs will the project impose on local emergency services, road maintenance, and other municipal services who will pay for these costs? Will the project commit to direct payment for fire protection, road maintenance, and emergency response costs attributed to the facility?
Yes, we will pay for all of that.
Great. Housing and cost of living impacts. What is the projected impact of local rental and housing markets during construction and operation phases? What commitments will the project make to support affordable housing or to mitigate displacement of existing renters?
So we have a large multi-million-dollar cash payment that is due upon signing to our workforce hub operator so that they can build the housing, the recreation, and the commissary, and everything else that the construction workers will use during construction so that it does not impact the community. And I think that's one area where the Stargate project down in Texas, where I live right now, really screwed up because they didn't think about this, and they've got guys driving 4 hours each way to get to the work site. They're stressing out the communities around them, and so we took a step back and said, okay, what do we need to do to ensure that this doesn't happen here? And when you talk about the ranchers, my brother's standing behind you, we're fully cognizant of the impact on the ranch.
Understood. That leads me to public land and resource. You border public land. You said your brother was raising cattle on public land, right?
Yeah, yes, our family landholding company is the surface lessee.
So how is it going to impact what federal and state public land permits, right-of-ways, or special use authorizations does the project require? What existing uses, including grazing, will be displaced? And what is the economic value of that displaced? What is the impact of the project on the surrounding public land, including air quality, water quality, noise, wildlife habitat, and recreational use? Now, you answered some of those questions,
I can
but
answer
in
the
theory.
rest.
Yeah.
I can answer the rest. So the value of what's being given up is between the company and my brother, who is the lessee right now. In terms of what's required from a permitting standpoint to bring in fiber, we have been in a full NEPA process with the Bureau of Land Management. This is where it gets crazy, all right? So we're trying to bring in fiber, and we're trying to use an abandoned oil field road that was used to drill a bunch of dry holes on that ranch. We have to go through a full NEPA process, even though Questar Infocom has a pipeline controller that sits right next to the fiber, and they already have a Bureau of Land Management permit to go on this private road that goes through our ranch. We have to go through a full-blown federal process in order to get the permit.
And those are
including an environmental assessment, including cultural resource surveys, including botany surveys, including wildlife, the whole 9 yards. It's extensive.
So those are kind of the hidden concerns that I'm talking about at the beginning here, because when you're fiber optics, when you're pulling that in, when you're pulling in the gas, those rates rise on the consumer because the company raises those on our taxpayers.
They're not hidden because the Bureau of Land Management charges us to do all of that work, or we have to pay our own consultants to go out and do the work and provide it to the Bureau of Land Management for their assessment.
But the extra energy pull is what causes the base rate for our constituents to go up.
Yeah, Jen.
Let's check in. I think they're
It's time for something.
I've just got a couple more questions.
It's on. You want to try to...
Your constituents didn't ask those.
There's
All right, Eric, next.
Eric,
We're not going anywhere, but I think other people might want to go somewhere.
everybody-
and
they can
might
put
wanna get their
everybody, they can
questions
come back
answered.
to you.
So
Yeah.
let's give everyone a chance.
Eric Wyatt.
Eric.
He's up there. Good. There's 2
Eric Wyatt, I live over in Lyman, so I'm a Unit County resident. I know some people had questions on that earlier. I work with the Bridger Valley Chamber of Commerce. I'm also on the Unit County Economic Development Board. All the answers that you guys have been giving have been great. I would commend you on everything that you're doing, answering the questions. I would just ask whether or not you know, like, you mentioned that you're going to be partnering with Western. Have they looked at changing any of their courses, any of their plans? I know they were planning on being here, so they probably would have been the better ones to ask. But are we already seeing a change in some of the education that can come into the state to teach our youth to be able to keep them here rather than them thinking that they have to leave the state to get a job?
Yeah, so I was looking for Ron Wild because he's the guy who deserves all the credit on this one. There's Ron.
Yeah, there's Ron.
Ron helped start a journeyman lineman program at Western Wyoming. And we've had a number of the graduates of that program, people who are currently in the program, reach out to us. And we fully expect that's going to be a great source of talent for us. Sorry, Ron, we're going to have to compete on the talent, but I think we can ask our tenant to put more money into that program to better fund it and to get more graduates who are capable of operating at least the electrical part of this facility.
Eric?
We've got Josh Matthews.
Josh?
Oh, next. Good.
All right, Bruce.
Bruce?
I think my question's been answered by this gentleman back here. Mike, anybody has been around for 40, 50 years in this area, they remember the old man camps. And it's a new era today, I know, but this was a rough town back then. And it, you know, you say it's a dry camp, but it's not a dry town. We have all the vices available, and when everybody gets a paycheck on Friday night, I'm curious to see what crime impacts we're going to have, because there will be some impact from somebody's going to have too many of something, and hopefully it's not widespread, and you said that you've addressed that as far as getting proper resources in place to address those type of concerns. But I just remember the old days. If a car broke down on Whitney Canyon Road, it was torched in 10 minutes. It was parked on the ground. So it was rough then, but hopefully not today.
I was a young person then. I was 46 when I started this company and tried to bring the asset to Uinta County. I'm 52 now. I'm fully aware of the downside, and that's why we've been very intentional about the partner that we've chosen to operate the workforce hub, because of their reputation in the industry, because they are a publicly traded company. They've got a board of directors who ask hard questions. They also have investors who ask hard questions, and they have to have the right answers. And going back to Salute, we've agreed with Target that Salute is going to start with us during construction. So they're going to provide the overall security plan for the construction site while the thing is being built. They're also going to provide a comprehensive security arrangement that includes the workforce hub. So back when I was in the oil field, we used to say, I want one throat to choke. That's Salute in our case. They're going to be responsible for that. And we're very sensitive to the impact that it can have on the community. And that's why we've made the arrangements that we have.
Joanne Marble.
Thank you. You said that you're from Uinta County, Wyoming, born and raised here, correct?
Yes, ma'am. My mother is sitting right here.
Okay, and you moved to Texas.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're sold out. Moved to Texas and don't care a bit about Uinta County.
That is entirely not true. This will always be home.
Prove me. Tell me why you're doing this.
I've seen the ups and the downs, and I had a conversation with one of the commissioners about 5 years ago who mentioned to me that the property tax revenue, which is the main revenue source for the county has been going down for every year that he's been in office. So every year, his job is to figure out where to cut. That can't go on forever. We have to figure out a responsible way to make revenue go up so that people like me who are graduating from any of the schools around here have opportunities, and there's economic activity that can bind them so that they don't have to leave.
What kind of data and whose data are you going to collect?
I'm not collecting anyone's data.
All right, Chris Gould.
Hi, I'm Chris Wool from Casper, Wyoming. Just wondering, how many of those diesel generators will be parked out there the size of a semi-rig? And would you have brought this to Wyoming without the state subsidies through the sales tax and the Wyoming Business Council on?
We're not getting any subsidy from the Wyoming Business Council.
You don't get free broadband for 3 years?
No.
We do every other.
At least maybe the other guys are doing that. We're not doing that. As far as the diesel, those are backup gen sets for when the power fails.
Right.
So for a grid-connected data center, which we are not, those only come on if the power goes out. Since we're not connected to the grid, those will only come on if a certain number of our natural gas generators go down unexpectedly. And those also have to comply with all of the Wyoming requirements around air quality. The state of Wyoming has primacy over air permitting, and so the state basically operates on the same level as the federal government.
You're using them, will you use them to begin with?
No.
For the,
No, we want to make sure, that's the tricky part right now, is the demand is so high that we have to be able to demonstrate to our tenant that we can generate power before they're going to sign on the dotted line. Otherwise, it's just a hope and a prayer, and they don't do that.
All right, we've got Jerry Pieper.
Thank you for driving all the way over here, by the way.
All right.
With that power that you're making, isn't it true it's going to be like about 90 decibels as
No.
it's like 2 decibels?
So we're going to run ours on section 19, which is off the road where you're not going to be able to hear it. But I'll answer your question. And this is one of the reasons I took Gary and Kent down to the Nova Data Center in West Jordan, is so that they could stand in the alleyway where you've got the closed loop system operating. So you've got solar plant running. You've also got Yenbachers. And before I went there, I didn't know they were using Yenbachers because those weren't installed the last time I was at this facility. They're one of our competitors, and they let us take county folks to go see what's going on. They are measuring about 60 decibels because they sit in the city. It's somewhere between the noise that's generated by your dishwasher and your refrigerator.
Constantly.
Gary.
It's really awful.
Gary, you're up.
It's Gary's turn.
Okay. Thank you. I had at least a dozen questions, and these people have asked great questions, and I've answered probably 11 of my 12 questions. So thank you for giving thorough answers on that stuff. The only one I have left is, has your company entered into any non-disclosure agreements with any government officials or anybody?
No.
Wonderful, thank you.
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
And we refuse to do that.
All right, Todd Jones.
I think that's illegal, by the way, even though the industry does it.
Okay, just appreciate you guys doing this today. But my question is, the one thing that you kind of skipped over in your first part of your presentation there was with the power generation with the natural gas. What you said you're going to be using the Kern River pipeline. So where exactly is the power generation plant? Because you said it's not going to be right there on site, it's going to be a little bit somewhere else. So
Right, so if you drive down off the divide, past Eagle Rock, there's a valley off to your right. We're going to stick it up in there.
Will it generate heat?
So is that like where you turn, like if you was to go left, you go up to Cameron, you turn right?
No, it's private land, there's no public road that goes up there.
Oh, okay. All right. That's my question. Thank you.
All right, we've got Bruce Troxel.
It's in,
Bruce.
section
There you are.
section 19 is where the power will be generated.
Ooh, a lot of people.
So I have a couple things, really short. One is that, I travel, I'm a city resident, by the way, and I travel around the country, and there's a lot of negative activity about data centers. And I'm just wondering what all the hoopla is about. I mean, is the one in West Jordan not independent of the public grid? Or, yeah, I know this one is going to be, but like the one in Utah, I mean, man, I'm fighting words over there.
No, they're running the same natural gas gen sets. It's called a Jenbacher J620 is the specific model. The engines are manufactured in Austria. They're packaged in Milan by a company called Grupo AB, who's been doing this since 1983.
What's the big fighting words about?
If you ask the people in the neighborhood in West Jordan, there are no complaints.
My point exactly. I said, so why is there such a big hoopla about this? Like you said, data centers aren't going away. They're only going to be more. So the final question I have real quick, is there a potential to increase the size of this data center, or is it what's going to be?
No, there's only so much. I'll answer your last question first. There's only so much that will fit on this section of land. So if we wanted to expand further, we've got a permitted site that can handle one more building, but it's a couple miles away. So we can't expand without coming back for additional approvals. Sorry, what was the question right before that? I lost it.
My thing was, why is everybody so upset about the data centers? I mean, if they're quiet and they're independent.
Will it
of the
generate
public grid?
heat?
Because the old ones are not.
You're not quiet.
The older data centers consume massive amounts of water. But that's why I started this company, is to do things different and to force a change in the industry. I thought they would do it because of the lower cost, but nobody wanted to change. We're only in demand now because the technology has changed and they don't have a choice. They have to do it different.
Kudos.
All right, Troy, you're up.
Well, I'm Troy Lee, I live in Burke Valley. What I have is more just comments than questions. I kind of feel like I was fraternizing with the enemy and doing this stuff on the internet. But my information says that a 1.2 gigawatt data center powered by natural gas would emit 4.7 million metric tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. I'm sure you're going to do everything you can to, comply with local regulations, but I don't have a point of reference that says, that is good or bad, other than one of the data points that I looked at is that that's enough, that's the same amount of pollution as a city of 200,000 to 300,000. And so, you know, I also looked at, could this be supplied with renewables? Well, 5 million solar panels would be required to generate that much power. So, you know, we understand that's not feasible. I did not get information about wind generation, which we seem to have quite a bit of. So that's one comment. One question that I have is, oftentimes when we've seen the oil field booms, what happens is all of the local people, all the people that work at Walmart, at the fast foods, at the car wash, at the grocery store, and whatnot, better jobs, economics says we're going there. How can you do something to mitigate so that you know, businesses aren't closed down because they can no longer get local workers?
Right, so because I used to be in the oil field, for better or worse, the construction activity and the operations of these facilities takes skilled trades. In other words, journeyman electricians, journeyman plumbers, pipe fitters. This isn't, and I'll refer to myself as this because I was in the oil field trash. You're not going to get people like me. You're going to get people who are skilled at specific types of labor that's very valuable right now. And so I don't think you're going to see a big drain on basic services unless these folks are unemployed journeyman electricians, and then they're probably going to elect to go work in the data center.
Jody Morris.
Next.
All right. Tina Johnson.
Hi, thank you. So my question is regarding the leadership of Prometheus and Bernard Looney. So at June 2020, the World Economic Forum, when they announced the Great Reset, Bernard Looney was one of the speakers when he was the CEO of BP. So he's talked about the sustainability, the ESG, all of those things. The other one is Trevor Nielsen, who was also, he's associated with the World Economic Forum, a young global leader for the World Economic Forum, such as Justin Trudeau, Mark Zuckerberg. So this is a very global company with a local face, which that sounds nice, but these are the same people that said that you will own nothing and be happy. And I think that our community, that is what we should be looking at. You also have, you just said that you're building in Cheyenne. We also know that you're building in Casper. We know that you already have a political pack to bring, which is to support legislators who are going to support your mission. How does that affect our community, and why should we support a global thing like that?
So we're building here, or we intend to build here in Evanston, or in Union County. We intend to build on the border of Commerce and Natrona counties. Most of our agenda is going to be in Natrona. The data halls will be split among Commerce and Natrona. We are not building in Cheyenne. We've never announced anything in Cheyenne. We do have another project in Kaufman County, Texas. It's about the same size land-wise as the one that we're doing here. As far as the aspersions on our management team members, I hired these guys. I don't agree with any of the World Economic Forum's politics. I just don't.
But are they bringing it here?
I would like to provide you the opportunity to meet them in person, sit down and have lunch with them if you'd like that.
Shall we all go?
Yes.
Yes, okay, Eric, let's keep it moving. Lots of people are going to get home tonight.
Shane Pratt.
Hey, crap.
I want to thank you too for this day and for doing this. And I think you've answered a lot of questions for me, and I hope for other people. You may have answered part of my question in this, but when I talked to you earlier for the interview, and we talked about the closed loop system, you said that water would be brought in by a manufacturer after it's mixed with the propylene glycol. Where does that manufacturer get the water? And then also in this, it said you would only be changing that water every couple of years. Is that right?
Yeah, every 6 years.
Okay, so where does that manufacturer get the water, and how much would it be initially?
I think all this, well, don't everybody call Coastal Chemical tomorrow and ask where their water comes from, but sure, if you want to, it can't stop you. You can call Coastal and find out where the water comes from. I don't know if they have an on-site well, whether they truck it in, whether they buy it from the city. I don't know where they get the water. But it's about Coastal Chemical, they manufacture the propylene glycol down in Texas.
All right, Linda Sanchez.
Linda? You know Linda next?
Mike Senior.
Mike? Next?
All right, Suzanne Small.
This is where we're keeping it going, guys, because some people had to leave so they didn't answer a question.
Hi, thanks for being here. I'm a local from birth to old. My question follows Bill and Bruce about the man camp. I was a teenager during the big boom, and it was an experience. It was an experience. But my question is, and you answered two of my questions with them. But the other one is, out there on the land that the county owns that runs close to the Bear River State Park, how far away will it have an impact on the park, and have you looked for another area?
So let me answer that. We've worked with our partners to try to site on that 1,000 acres so that it doesn't mess with the trails, because we know people like to go out there and hike and walk their dogs.
What about hunting?
I don't know that there's hunting allowed out there, but so I can't answer that question.
All right, Tylen?
Wait, we're not done.
I'm sorry, what was the rest of your question?
Oh, I said, will the park be impacted, and have you looked for another area?
Okay, so no, we don't expect the park will be impacted. That area was set for commercial or some kind of development. The county's been trying to develop it for years.
Yeah.
There are already high pressure water lines out there. There are fire hydrants. They're already out there. There's a sewer connection. There are utilities, and we have worked with the city and the county planners to ensure that the requisite capacity to handle what we're going to put out there is already there. So we don't have to expand anything. We just need to plug it in, and it's kind of convenient. So I don't know if it's serendipity or what it is, but that land is just sitting there waiting for something to go in and be used and start generating property tax and other revenue for the county.
So when you're finished with that, you're gonna just.
All right, Tyler.
Or are you gonna let people buy those homes for?
Was it?
Housing.
Island? Next?
We'll get to you, or I'll get to you, Andrew.
Brian Williams.
Brian Williams? Next?
Bruce and Sherry.
Bruce and Sherry? Yeah.
Thank you for asking the question, or answering the questions. Mine have been answered, but I just wanted to comment that I don't feel you're a sellout because you moved away for a while. My husband is from a family that's been up in the valley in Uintah County since 1893. We moved away, we brought back 5 kids, and had 5 kids graduate from school. I feel more comfortable knowing that there's somebody who still has family here in the community and has a vested interest. And so I appreciate that. I listened on Facebook as the community keyboard warriors battled about the pool coming in and not having money. Here's a chance for us to have some money in the county without it burdening the people here. And all I gotta say is, if a turtle's gonna progress, he has to stick his head out at some.
Well, thank you. I want to respond to that. I appreciate that comment, and that is why I kept going during the years when nobody wanted this kind of data center. I mean, I use those facilities, and I feel like I owe something back to the community that provided me those opportunities. And that's all of you.
Next, Sarah?
Paul Dodsworth.
Paul? Skip? Next?
Kaylee. Mel.
Kaylee? Next?
Zach Gibbs.
Zach Gibbs.
Thank you. I've been in this community since 2010, born and raised in Lyman. Well, not born there, sorry. When I was 7. But I have 2 questions. First question I have is, we talked about the electricity rates not going up, but we didn't say anything about the gas rates. And so that's my first question. My second question is, can you please give more specifics about security with the man camp? Is there going to be background checks? Is there going to be, checks in and out of the camp? I have 3 girls, 15, 10, and 6. They walk, well, not the 6-year-old, but the others, walk dismiss, they go places, go to the parks. That's the part that concerns me the most, and honestly, I'm scared to death about adding 3,800 possibly young guys here and how it's going to affect our sons and daughters who are still growing up in this community.
Well, thank you. I'll address the part about the gas cost. I had a special vantage point back in 2011 to 2015. I watched it in real time. I was the Senior Vice President and CFO of Scientific Drilling, who still has a base in Casper, and we were running a lot of jobs in Wyoming, out of Casper and out of western Colorado, where we no longer have a base, but did at the time. I watched it in real time as the rigs went down and went back up in Texas and in Marcellus because of unconventional gas and unconventional oil and all the associated gas that comes along with it. I also know the economics of my customers. So it's people like Pure West, Williams, Oasis, I can run down the whole list, ExxonMobil. If gas goes above $4 an MMBTU, you're going to see rigs go back up because Williams has literally thousands, I think 1,500 to be exact-ish, drilling locations in central Wyoming that are conventional gas. And the gathering systems are already out there. So when the economics demand it, you're just going to see more rigs go up. Same thing is going to happen on the eastern part of the Findell Anticline and the Jonah Field. You're going to see more production. Part of the reason that Pure West Energy did a partnership with us is they're trying to find people who can take that conventional gas. Until there's an off-taker, they've got 1 rig running. And they're going to have 1 rig running for the foreseeable future. If we come in and take a bunch of gas, they're probably going to have to put up some rigs. But I don't think the gas price will go up that much just because there's so much out there. We are blessed in this state to have massive amounts of natural gas.
Can you address the question about security?
Oh, security. I'm going to let our partner Troy from Target Hospitality introduce himself, and then he can address the security things. While he's walking up, I have 5 kids myself, and the younger 3 are 12. We have identical twin girls who are 10. So I feel you.
Thanks, Trent. Can everyone hear me okay? I have a tendency to talk loud. I probably don't need the mic, so give me a thumbs down if I'm yelling. Well, first of all, good afternoon. My name is Troy Schrank, and I work for a company called Target Hospitality. No, I was not born in Evanston. No, I am not a local of Uintah County. I actually grew up on a farm in Oregon, if you really want to know. And I lived in Idaho, so the West is home. But I live in Texas, and I'm not a sellout of Oregon, and that's not a dig on anybody. I'll share with you a couple of your questions on security. By title, I'm the Chief Commercial Officer and Chief Operating Officer for the company. Trenton explained that we're a publicly held company. We are based in Houston, Texas. I'm going to share a little story about Trenton and how we got involved in this project. First of all, we don't take on any project without first doing due diligence on potential partners. So we spent a lot of time with Trenton and his leadership team and got to know him personally. And the first thing that stood out to me was that he was a local and he was a rancher. I liked him right away because I grew up on a farm. Salt of the earth, a guy who wears boots and jeans, and he's a family man and cares about his community. Check the box, check the box, check the box. And then he wanted to do things differently. He mentioned a project down in Abilene, Texas called Stargate, one of the biggest data centers in the world being built. He's not exaggerating to tell you that the workers are traveling 4 hours every day and impacting that community on levels that should never have happened. Housing prices have soared. There's been a run on groceries. The impact on the community has been significant. So a couple years ago when Trenton invited me to visit, he said, how can we not put a strain on the community that I grew up in, number one. Number two, how can we give back? I've heard some comments over here, there's a housing shortage in this area. That's not uncharacteristic of many communities throughout the United States right now. I've had the opportunity, I've been with the company 15 years. I've had the opportunity to travel across the United States and meet with communities like yours in rural, remote areas that do not have infrastructure, they do not have the housing. They're worried about the man camps of our fathers 40 years ago. I appreciate your comment. It was a real deal back then. Man camps. I hate that term. I can't stand it. It gives me shivers every time I hear about it. From Louisiana to the Bakken oil fields of North Dakota to the West Texas Permian Basin to right here in Wyoming, in Wright, Wyoming, all over Texas, parts of Pennsylvania, Ohio, anywhere where there was oil or natural resources, we were invited into those communities to help solve big problems. And I can guarantee you, you do not want a man camp in your community. I don't want one. I have 2 children, a 10-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son. I don't want a man camp in my community. So, the first and foremost, when you talk about security, I'm going to have 300 employees. And we hope to hire as many as we can local. Of those 300 employees, about 60% are going to be female. My first job as a Chief Operating Officer for the company is safety and security of all of our guests, including my employees. With over 180, they're going to be female, living with these young guys, as we say, the hard-working people that are going to come in and help build the data center. I don't do background checks on the general contractor that Trenton will hire. He can walk you through that. I know the company that he's considering to have build this data center, and they're reputable. I can tell you that I background check every one of our employees, and we'll have 300 of them. I'm proud to say we're a second chance employer. We're considered a second chance employer. Before I got into business, a little background, I worked in children's mental health. I worked with juveniles that had tough backgrounds, suicidal, homicidal ideation, on felony probation. That work still goes right to my heart. I believe everybody deserves a second chance. I will tell you, we screen every employee that works at our company in the field, and we will evaluate those for second chance opportunities. I'm going to go ahead and get it out there. Any criminal background that involves any type of sexual activity whatsoever that's felonious, they are eliminated from the pool, the candidacy pool, that work for our company. Any violent offenses that are felonious, the severity of these types of criminal activities and people's storied past, they're eliminated from our candidacy pool. Let me talk about the hub, and if I can ask each of you, when you're talking in the community, not just here in Evanston, but across Wyoming. By the way, you're blessed. The state of Wyoming has billions of dollars coming into this state, whether it's an Air Force program, whether it's Trona, mining, data centers. The economic activity is incredible. And with that said, the amount of workers that are coming into the area, albeit are temporary. We have a zero tolerance code of conduct. What does that mean? Where's the sheriff? Sheriff, are you still here? We were talking a little earlier. Zero tolerance. No drugs, no alcohol, no cohabitation. Across 30 locations every night, I have 1,500 employees that work in our company. We take care of 20,000 guests across 30 locations with zero tolerance. We work hand in hand with the local police, local fire chief, local chief medical officer, and the city and the county to help alleviate any of those tensions or pressures that can exist in these areas. We will create jobs, no doubt. Safety and security is paramount, making sure that the workers can get to the job site safely through transportation. Keep them off the roads. If they're working 12-hour days, Councilwoman, you don't want them on your roads if they're not getting a good night's sleep, or if they're drinking alcohol, or if they're not getting a good meal in their belly. That's why we exist. It's not a sales pitch. If we're fortunate enough to be here and help support Prometheus' project, I can guarantee you we will be a part of this community. Not only creating jobs, but leaving a benefit legacy for the community. I'll share just a little insight information on what we're talking about. If we can make it happen, our company is looking at a way to build a recreation center that we can leave behind for the community's benefit, including multi-sport artificial turf fields. The workers that we talk about in our dad's oil patch, they're different today. They're not looking for a cold beer and a bottle of Jack at the end of the day. What they're looking for is a good quality of life away from their family that may come out of Boise or may come out of Louisiana or may come out of Texas to come out here and work. The other 12 hours that they're not building for his facility, I need to make sure they're fit for duty, that they've been fed well, they're rested well, and they're fit for duty, and we can get them on his job site and off. In 5 years, we will remove most of the assets because they're modular. We'll remove them from your community. And whatever legacy assets that we can leave behind that you guys can benefit from, we'll definitely do that. One last comment, because I've been way too long to answer your question. We have been working closely with the city and county planners on resources, water, sewer, power, fiber, and our mission, and we can get you data on this, is to make sure we don't add additional costs or price on the local residents. There's another project up the road in Kimmer. Everyone knows what it is, Project Atrium. We are being brought in on every major project in Wyoming to help solve these problems. And whether it's in Evanston or Kimmer or Cheyenne or Casper, they're very similar. The residents are different, but the problem set is very similar. We want to make sure your housing values can stay affordable. So we're not going to build 3,000 single-family homes that are temporary, right? We're going to build that are permanent, rather. So with that, I'll be around in this community event. Thanks for having us up here. If you have questions, I'm approachable. Feel free to come up. Trent and I apologize for taking too much time.
Okay, Eric.
All right, Ben Bell.
Ben Bell.
Just a couple questions. I'll make this. I guess I have to have this. So you have talked about going down to Utah and looking at one of their data centers. We know we have data centers here in Wyoming. Is your data center similar to any of the data centers in Cheyenne? Because we have a bias in Wyoming against other states. So let's talk about local data centers. Are any of those similar? And has there been any negative impact in Cheyenne that anybody in here has heard about the data centers that are there? I'm not hearing about drought. I'm not hearing about electricity rates. I'm not hearing about noise and heat. What is the impact there? Because we're all on Cowboy State Daily and everywhere else trying to check it out. I'm not hearing anything. Oh, you know what? Cheyenne's the cesspit of Wyoming now, instead of, I don't know, Rock, one of the cities that starts with R. Leave it at that. Are you similar to that, so people can take a drive and not leave state borders and go check it out for themselves?
So to answer your question, the only data center that's exactly like, or really close to like what we're building right now is the Crusoe project in Cheyenne. It's not built yet, so you can't see it. The other data centers there were designed previous to full-blown liquid cooling. The reason that I took some of your officials down to West Jordan is that facility is most likely one that we're going to be building. It's not new. They started construction in 2019. I think they started moving people in 2021. So they've got a good 5-year run history. And that's the one I'd point to, the one that's in West Jordan, Utah, as being most likely the one we're going to build here and in Casper and in Kaufman County, Texas.
So if we did want to sell out and go shop in Utah instead of local, we can check it out while we're down there and get something.
Or you can just go on Google Earth.
Yeah, that too.
Check it out.
Thank you.
Okay.
Linnea Hatch.
Linnea Hatch.
Hello. So I saw the post that this is projected to be one of the largest centers in our country. And I think that one thing that our community should remember moving forward is what makes Uena County special in the first place. This area has always taken pride in its open land, clean air, dark skies, wildlife, agriculture, and the peace that comes with living in rural Wyoming. These landscapes are not just empty space. They are part of our identity, our history, and the way of life many families have worked hard for generations to build and protect. As conversations about growth and development continue, I hope we remember that progress does not come at the cost of the very things that make people love living here. Uena County is more than a location on a map. It is a community rooted in independence, open space, and connection to the land. Whatever decisions are made about our future should reflect and preserve those values.
I agree with that. Did you have a question in there?
No, it was more just a comment I wanted to make because, you know, this is projected to be a huge building, a huge space taken up. We already have 1 million windmills that litter our, you know, our lands. That's beautiful. And then you've got this huge building projected to go up in the middle of all of it as well.
Well, I should speak to that. So the Crusoe data center that I just referenced is 10 times bigger than this. 10x. Stargate is even bigger. And so this won't be the largest data center in the US. It'll be the most advanced when it comes online. It will have the smallest footprint for the most amount of compute, so it'll be the most, I guess, concentrated. So for the amount of compute that comes out, it will take up less land than these other data centers will. So can we make it perfect? No. Are we going to have our architects ensure that it blends into the surroundings? Yes. Will you be able to see it from I-80? Maybe not. Depends on how high the berm is once we finish moving dirt around. So we're trying to do our best to make it as sustainable as possible, and at the same time, create a benefit for the community.
Curtis.
Chris?
Skip.
Skip.
Okay. We got Joe Webb. Joe though.
Thank you guys for being here, appreciate it. I think it's been very informational and appreciate the dialogue. My question is going to build upon a previous question that was asked, and it has to do with non-disclosure agreements. I want to go a little deeper into that, and that is, has had any non-disclosure agreements with Prometheus Hyperscale, with Saluda, with the company that will be hosting, any company at all that's in this project, have they signed any non-disclosure agreements with the state of Wyoming, including the Wyoming Business Council, its subsidies or subsidiaries, and any political subdivision of the state of Wyoming?
Categorically, no, sir. I believe that. It's my opinion. I'm not a lawyer. It's my opinion that that would be illegal, even though it goes on all the time in this industry. I think it's wrong. And we will never ask any public official to sign an NDA.
Thank you very much.
Eric?
He had a quick question. He has got to run, so we'll. Yeah.
I wasn't here to see the location, but on County Road 180, so as you get past Eagle Rock, where's the power plant going to be? What's that? So where's that power plant going to be that you're going to build? And then is this going to be up by Silver Eagle across the way there, or where's that going to be out in that area?
Yeah, if you're driving past Silver Eagle going toward Eagle Rock, it'll be up, the data centers will be off on your left. You may or may not be able to see them because of the elevation change.
Okay.
The power generation is going to be off to your right after you pass Eagle Rock.
So is that where that little...
Behind my brother's corrals.
Okay, so the corrals are right there. It's
So it'll be south of there.
Okay,
Where
so
we're
it's
going to
going to
put
be
the power
up on the
plant.
hill or further down?
We're going to do balance cut and fill to try to hide it.
Okay. And then the traffic on 180, are you going to bring them in off the Lizard Line Road, or are you going to bring them in off of Silver Eagle?
They should be coming in off the same heavy haul exit as the tankers that go in and out of the refinery.
Very good.
Richard Bruce.
Richard Bruce? Next.
Candy.
Candy?
I had a lot of questions when I first got here, and I appreciate you answering most of them. I only have one left, and that is the environmental impact statement. Have you had one of those done?
Yes.
And?
That was formed by Burns & McDonnell, which is a 10,000 employee engineering company. They handle the environmental assessment for the NEPA clearance for the federal permits that I referenced earlier, which included a cultural survey. It included a plant survey, so we spent $25,000 to go look for a plant that wasn't there. And did a lot of other things that the federal government asked us to do. It's taken me 5 years to get through that process, but we didn't find anything significant in that right of way. Again, it's abandoned oil field infrastructure that we're going to reuse.
Wildlife problems
Now that's part of the NEPA clearance. They go through wildlife. I'm going to forget something. They go through endangered species. There's a whole list. You can go out on any federal, probably the Bureau of Land Management website, and find out all the requirements that go into a NEPA clearance.
What about CO2 that
So that's going to get burned somewhere. If it gets burned in Utah, well, they get the money, and we still get the CO2.
All right, Diane Sellers.
Diane Sellers? take my steps in tonight.
I'd like to say thank you very much too for being here and for answering most of my questions. I had a few written down and most of them have been answered, and I'm going to kind of go after or dovetail on what Candy said. She asked about an environmental impact. I wondered about community impact. Was there any kind of community impact study that was done prior to this?
So last August, we provided the Uinta County Development Commission with a study that we paid for, which was done by the University of Wyoming. Your county development folks have had that since last August. If you want a copy, we'd be happy to provide you with one. And again, it's not our work, it's the University of Wyoming.
Thank you. And a lot has been said about the man camp, so looking at the community impact, where do you propose to put the man camp?
We have a letter of intent with Uinta County to place that, they call it the road to nowhere. It's on the edge of town here. The county's been trying to develop that land. There's 1,000 acres out there. We're going to use about 300 of 1,000, and we're going to try to place it kind of back where nobody goes.
Thank you. And you also said that you started this in 21. Is that when you started kind of looking at this?
July of 2020.
2020, okay. So, and you know, you already addressed that there was some public comment, but nobody was there. I think that
yes,
because a lot of people didn't really know what's going on, and you know, there's just so many thousands that are being built now. There's it's been brought into our public psyche, so to speak.
Yes. Can I speak to that a little bit?
Sure.
The assistant county attorney told me not to say this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. We're in the middle of what I view as the Cold War 2.0. A lot of our parents served in the military during some of those conflicts. The conflict right now is around who's going to maintain AI supremacy. You saw what our country did in Venezuela. The Chinese were there the day before. They didn't see it coming. There is a reason why everyone is hearing about this right now, and why nobody cared back in 2021 when I came to the Planning and Zoning Commission the first time. We put the same notice in the newspaper. It then went to the county commission. They voted on it. Same notice in the newspaper. I moved this site. So there was another notice in the newspaper. Nobody cared. I assure you, based on what I know, that there are foreign actors who are intentionally putting misinformation out there, and these guys are good. I mean, they are paid propagandists in Russia, in China, and Russia and China both understand that if we maintain AI supremacy, their chances of succeeding in achieving their goals is probably going to zero.
All right, Amy Sousa.
I had one more question. So, sorry. So I appreciate that you sought the public comment. It's really interesting and kind of speaks to our awareness, and I'm glad that we're here today. So is it still up for public comment, or is this pretty much a done deal? It's going forward, and you're being very gracious with all the information you're sharing with us?
That is up to your elected officials. So they're going to have a look, the Planning and Zoning Commission is going to have a look at the materials that we prepared to take a chunk of this land that belongs to our family and turn it from agricultural to industrial use. If we check all the boxes, I hope that they will say yes. It will then go to the county commissioners for them to review what the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Planning Department have done, and working with Target Hospitality over the last year and a half. And they're going to put it to a vote, and they're going to decide whether they think this is good for Uinta County. So it's up to them. I hope they select it. I've been working on this for 6 years. I think it's time I can say that I've had conversations with the governor, and no, there are no NDAs, so if you want to call the governor's office, feel free. But my view is, this is my opinion, so we have a lawyer here with our company, so I hope I'm not going to say anything wrong here. I don't know how many data centers are too many for a community, but I kind of wonder if Cheyenne's getting there. I know Northern Virginia is there. They probably have too many. But the situation in Wyoming right now is all of that economic activity is in one city. And I know Governor Gordon would like to see it spread out a little bit because he understands as well as we do what the tax impact is. He understands that when more gas is produced and burned in this state, there are severance taxes that pay for everything that we use in the state of Wyoming. And so I hope they vote yes.
Well, I'm just at the end of this, I think I'd rather have somebody selling their private land than a big billionaire coming in and trying to take over.
Well, it is our private land, and as I mentioned during the beginning of the talk here, we have signed a binding agreement with our tenants that it will not be sold to certain types of entities, and there are at least 5 Chinese names on that list. I will tell you something that happened before all this group came together. We had an offer back in July of 2024. I went through a full-blown process to bring in a tenant, and it kind of ripped my guts out because I'd been working on it for 4 years at that point, and I was ready to sign. We came to terms, including a lease rate with a hyperscale tenant, and I couldn't sign the contract. I'll tell you who it was. It was Bike Dads. And so we've waited 2 more years to get to somebody that we think is the right person to have in this county.
Does everybody know who ByteDance is? TikTok.
TikTok. It's the bane of my children's existence.
Okay, Eric, Amy Sousa, what's next?
First off, thank you to her. This is a hard job, manning this mic and making sure that everyone is graciously heard, but also graciously moved on. So thank you so much. I have a couple of questions, but I'm only going to ask probably one of them. What are the 3 biggest risks to this community on this project, and who bears those risks financially if something goes wrong? And then I have one more question. As far as marketing goes, it's a 1.25 gigawatt center, and I'm wondering why would it go with 1.21 gigawatts? But anyway, 3 biggest risks is what I'm really wondering.
Well, I can answer the last one. It has purely to do with our tenant's design for each building and what the number adds up to. It's just math.
Thank you.
My wife reminds me on a regular basis, sometimes my math doesn't math, but fortunately we have engineers who do pretty good math. So there's that. And this happens to me a lot, but I'm blanking on your previous question. Oh, the risks.
The 3 biggest risks to the community.
So we've tried to avoid the big risks. So we've avoided connecting to the grid because this project grew to a size where it didn't make sense to interconnect it, and Rocky Mountain Power System can't handle 1.25 gigawatts. Maybe it will in the future, and at some point they may do the math and say, if we buy this power plant, we can move rates down, and if we can agree on a price, then maybe we interconnect it. But that's for down the road. The water thing was a big issue, and so we've tried to minimize that as much as we can. And the third one is really safety. That's the big one, and that's the one we have to tackle together. Our general contractor is, it's actually a joint venture among 2 general contractors. I can't say who he is, but the named principal of one of those contractors has been my personal mentor for a number of years. The other joint venture partner is a family-owned business, started as a family-owned business, and one of the family members is still in charge. And so we expect to work with those general contractors and Target Hospitality and Prometheus to ensure we have the safest operation humanly possible.
That doesn't answer the question.
We mitigated the first two.
That's the risk.
No, the risk.
And it's our
to the
job.
community.
It's a risk to the community,
What
and it's
could
our job to
go
address it.
wrong is what we want to know.
So I can address that because I used to have to give the stats at our monthly executive meetings. Wyoming has one of the highest workforce fatality rates in the country. So that's where we have to start, is on the job site. Make sure that people go home safe every night and they can go back to their families. That's number one. And then number two, that goes right along with that, is security. So that's the point that Troy from Target Hospitality addressed. That is why we're giving free rent, for lack of a better term, to our law enforcement on the Workforce Hub. We want as much law enforcement and first responder presence there as possible. So can I guarantee that nothing bad will ever happen? I'd be a fool if I did that. But I will tell you that we will pledge to do everything humanly possible to create a safe job site and a safe situation for the community.
Eric?
Mariki, that doesn't answer the question.
I'm happy with it.
Did you get it right? Yeah.
No, it didn't answer the question.
Let's let everyone have their question.
Okay, first, I want some clarification. Alex said I should tell you that I'm from here. We own the bakery in town, and we're definitely from here. So, what I have here is some information. So the United States, as of April 14th, 2026, had 4,184 data centers. The United Kingdom has 515, Germany 514, China 369, and so on, less and less as the countries go by. So why do we need more than 4,200 data centers in the United States when everybody else is getting along with way less? Is that because we really need to hold all that data? I'm concerned about that.
I can speak to that because I've been in the country. You know how many data centers China has and how big they are? How big? Know how big the data centers are in China?
No.
And how hard it is to build one. It's easy for them to build everything they want because the Communist Party maintains firm control on what gets built and where, and people don't have a say at all. I think the biggest risk for you and your business is that this project does not happen, because the revenue that you should expect to increase by having this economic activity in Evanston, Wyoming, changing the trajectory from one that decreased at least over the last 8 years. I think between 2024 and 2025, the amount of property tax, because there were some adjustments, went down by like 25%.
So you're talking about economics rather than the data center? I'm just asking why we need so many data centers. If everybody else is getting along with 500, why do we need 4,000 in the United States?
The UK does not have AI supremacy. France doesn't have it. China wants it, and they're going to do their darndest to get it. I hope they don't get it.
So we want to be first? Is that
Yes.
what you said?
It's an America first argument.
So that still doesn't answer my question though. Why do we need so many?
We
What,
want to be first.
Because there's so much demand.
there's really that much demand and there isn't in the other countries?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because all of the things you were talking about that we get, like internet and Netflix and all of that stuff, that, I mean, we've been to other countries and feel like they have all of those things too. And so is that because we have data centers and we're helping them? I'm just trying to understand the reasoning behind the need for this kind of stuff.
Ahmed wants this one, so.
Okay, Ahmed.
I will try my best. So I think a lot of this has to do with where the end user starts from. Just because we talked about Netflix, we talked about Facebook, a lot of those supports could be from North America, from America, but the end user, it might be in UK, might be in Germany. So just because their services are not there doesn't mean they're utilizing the data centers that houses their data here.
Okay, that helps.
Aside from the usual suspects of social media, any of the personal networking that we use on our phone, there's also a demand for artificial intelligence. A lot of that is the next frontier. It might not be, we're all used to using some aspect of artificial intelligence. Whether you shop on Amazon.com or you go do your groceries, I guarantee you the local grocery store has some sort of an AI-backed front on their website. So I think that demand is growing from that use of artificial intelligence in our daily life.
So you're saying that because we have it, we're letting other countries use it. So we're at the forefront and we're giving them something. Is that what you're saying? The reason that we need so many data centers is so that we can export it?
No, it's for our own internal use.
Okay.
I think we're using more data at this point because of the good use that we can get out of it, prior to prioritizing other countries.
Okay. Thank you. My other clarification was, you were talking about garbage, and you know, everybody talked about the water and everything, but what about building the buildings? I mean, there's a lot of waste from building those buildings, and I want to know how much that's going to cost and how that will impact us.
I'll just jump in here. We are not pursuing LEED certifications for our project yet. However, both the contractors that we're using are absolutely LEED contractors. So what that means is that every bit of product that comes into the site is managed in some way. They have specialized dumpsters that they put all the metals in. All the metals are trucked away for recycling. All the wood goes to different processing plants for it to be recycled. So they're essentially working for a zero waste
Will it
output.
have somewhere to go after it needs to?
It will go across the United States in some way.
We already know that. Or are we going to be stuck like the windmills with like things that we have to bury?
You're producing noise and heat.
Think about it.
No, so there's a couple, to get back to the original question was about the construction waste. We will manage the project so that there is zero waste that's going to his truck that has to be sent and buried somewhere, okay? To the landfill, okay? The IT is a different story, and the IT has a lot of value that is retained, even though it ages out. The IT ages quite quickly, but it's not going to be sent to a landfill. It all gets recycled. And there's a lot of different reasons for its recycling, but it doesn't go to a landfill. It all gets reused in some fashion.
All right, Marissa Cheney. Alan.
Thank you. Appreciate
trying to understand all of this. A few years ago, we were told that everybody had to have a COVID shot. And that turned out to be so false that it was pathetic. It cost billions. And now we're being told that we have to have data centers. And I'm wondering, is it an economic thing to not only you, but we wrote a letter to the Zuckerberg and the Bill Gates and saying, oh, we're so glad that you're supporting the data center. Well, when you say those names to me, you're on the opposite side of the fence. And I'm wondering, is, you know, the technology that we need, the storage of the using your phone or computer, is it for us or is it for you? And, you know, I put you in the case, you know, Bill, I mentioned Zuckerberg and Gates. Somebody's going to make $1 billion on all of these, billions and billions. Are we doing it to get rich, or are we doing it to help our lives? So that's a little bit of a...
That's a good philosophical question. I've already told you why I'm doing it and continue to do this despite not being paid for several years. So it wasn't to get rich. Other people on my team, they have secret desires to make a lot of money. I will tell you that the tenant that we're talking to right now is very frugal. None of the two names that you have mentioned, even though they got letters, they didn't write back, which is fine. The tenant that we have agreed a cap on our returns. Everything is open book on cost. So when we build a data center, it's open book to them. They get to see exactly what it costs, and what they pay for it is based on that. When we build the power generation, it's also open book. There's a cap on the return. So our returns are capped. We already know what they are. That's not unlimited upside. And now we have to go raise that capital. Where I come down on this is we're going to go raise a bunch of capital. We're going to invest it in Uinta County. It's going to create a tax base that doesn't go up and down with the oil and gas business and with whoever happens to be sitting in the captain's chair in Washington, D.C., whether he likes coal or doesn't like coal. This is something that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Based on the amount of land that it takes up, there's a massive investment that generates a lot of tax revenue, mostly property taxes. And that's going to be the case for wherever these things go.
Eric?
Parker Jackson.
Parker Jackson?
Just two related questions. What's the anticipated lifespan of the facilities, both the data center piece and the power generation piece? You mentioned that the servers have to replace so often, but I anticipate that if we're meeting again in 30 or 40 years, that the technology will be different and some of it will be obsolete. So what's kind of your anticipation then?
So it's in black and white at this point. I can tell you between Prometheus and the landowner, which is our family's land holding company, it's a 99-year deal. Between us and our tenant, it's a 15-year deal with 2 10-year extensions. And the reason why it's 15 is that we have to be able to amortize the construction debt across the tenant payments that come in over those 15 years. And hopefully they stick around so we can make some money after that.
Eric?
Brian Collins.
Brian Collins? Next?
Alyssa.
Alyssa?
full disclosure, I'm not Anissa. She had to leave and gave me her time. I am here more on a personal note. I am one of the 2 houses that live out on this, next to this property. I know during the winter, you cannot get from the gas plant down to our properties. And I just am wondering, for safety purposes of the guys coming out and ladies coming out to work, who's going to be taking care of that? Because I don't think Butch wants to be the one in charge of that. And are you going to be improving the road out there? And what are you going to do for the bridges and culverts that are not prepared for that much traffic, and keeping us being able to get to our jobs?
Well, we've already promised you that we're going to plow for you. So that the part of the road that's not maintained right now will get maintained. If you want us to plow to your house, we'll plow to your house.
Yeah, none of that's maintained by this city.
No, right now it's not maintained by the county. We are going to maintain it. We have to maintain it. In order to provide multiple ingress and egress, we've got to go from our culvert that hits the county road 180 over by the refinery. We have to go west. We also have to be able to go east. So we're going to have to keep that clear. 24/7, 365 at our expense.
Okay, be careful of my dogs, okay?
Yes, certainly.
Is that the entire time of your guys' extended lease you just said?
Yes.
Bruce.
Bruce?
Skips. All right, Natasha.
What's that? Who am I looking for?
Oh, Skip, help me.
Finally, it's your turn. Hi, so I've got a couple questions. For myself personally, I have lived here for 36 years in Wyoming. I hunt, I fish. It's important to me. It's how I meet my needs in a lot of ways. I'm concerned because your area is Area 106. And I know they give out like 800, maybe 1,200 tags a year for elk and deer. It's kind of a very, very important area for us to be able to meet our own needs. The biggest thing that comes up to my mind is several years back, probably 10 years ago, when the city allowed Highway 89 to entertain the idea of the coal mines, the mine that they were doing up there. And so for years it bounced back and forth that they were going to allow it. It was approved, it was unapproved. They finally approved it, and then they went in and they put in roads, and they put in, we could only walk in, and they just totally destroyed all of the hunting area. It is not the same. 10 years later, they did not approve it anymore. It was kiboshed after they went in and bulldozed, put in roads, and for the lack of regulatory systems and things, it fell through. But it wasn't until after they had destroyed my walking area where I had been for years. And now what I see is it's going to happen again. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you got better planning, but even still, 106 is a hunting area. Knight's Ridge is up there. I mean, it's all bought and sold to an outfitter. And so for us, people who live here, 106 hunting area is pretty important. And I know it's important to me. And it is exactly where you are going to put our data center. And also with that, from listening to the issues in Utah, there's a very, very big concern about the temperature that these data centers bring to the area, the cooling and just the being and the very presence of its being can be temperatures rising 20 degrees or more. And also We have some other issues like Star Valley, things that might not necessarily seem to be a part of us, but brain tumors, these things that happen around people, around these high energy fields of electronics that I don't think I've heard anybody say anything about, but it is very real and it is very serious. And I think it's easy when most of us don't know, because we want to believe, like you're here and you're part of the community, and I want to believe everything you have to say, and I want to believe that you're going to be here and that it matters to you. But I don't know that. I don't know that in 6 years after all this goes down that you're not going to find yourself in Switzerland. I don't know that. And none of us do, really.
I hear you.
And so, yeah, my biggest concerns are hunting area 106, how this is going to affect. That is a huge elk migratory corridor. It's huge. And if you, I don't see anybody from the game warden here. I don't know why. I don't know why it's not important. About 8 years ago, I went through the city council to get city limit beekeeping approved. I was required to give me and other multiple, I had to get entomologists from the University of Wyoming to come in and give us a 6-hour presentation of what it meant to the community for beekeeping in the city limits. And I loved every opportunity of it. I felt like I was getting beat up on, like, why did I have to prove so much, to the community that beekeeping in the city limits wasn't going to be a detriment to us. And I just wonder why we aren't going with the same kind of caution and education. And I see this as the same, but I don't know that you called in entomologists and that you called in all these people to ease our...
The Bureau of Land Management, well, first of all, I understand how you feel. My wife and I own a couple of acres on the Upper Green, and the reason we bought that is so that I can go fly fishing once a year and save my sanity. So I love doing those things just as much as you do, I think. Our land was in a hunter management program with an outfitter for many years. When the data center kicked off, my brother made the decision to pull out. I don't know if you were aware of that, but it's no longer in a hunter management area.
That is very, very sad.
No, when it's in a hunter management area, you can't go in because the landowner has the tags and the outfitter controls it. What I'm telling you is we'll pull it out of that situation.
But if the temperature is going to raise 30, 27 degrees, is that going to be a benefit to...
We have no data that would support a 20-degree increase in
Is it 10? Is it 5? It is a temperature...
Once you get a few feet away from the data center, heat is going up. And we will be happy to share the air modeling from both power generation and the data center so that you can see what that looks like. Because we have very good...
To the atmosphere, where is it? Is it canopy? Are we going to be just like Salt Lake with...
No, it's the beauty of Wyoming. We're on the back side of the Wasatch. So it pulls most of the moisture out, and there's generally no cloud cover to hold that stuff in. It gets reflected back up to space, which is why it's 65 degrees below zero in Peter Sinks over by Logan. That's all the heat gets reflected up.
80 degrees next
No.
year? In 6 years?
No, ma'am.
Will be the tropics?
No, ma'am. If that was going to happen, I wouldn't do this project. We have, it's called CFD modeling. So we can take the amount of energy that's put in, we can take the thermals that come out, and we can determine...
A good guess. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Eric, let's go on.
All right, that was the last last name on the list. We'll be sticking around for more questions if you guys want to ask them. Please grab more food on your way out if you want that. Thank you guys so much for coming. Really appreciate it. Those sheets of paper again will be on our website as soon as we can get them on out there. So again, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We're going to stick around if you want to talk